Alright, good morning and welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to be making biscuits and gravy. Country gravy with biscuits. And this is a video that I have debated for quite a while if I was going to share this on the channel. And I all but decided that I was not going to do it because this is not going to be a healthy dish whatsoever. Biscuits and gravy, country biscuits and gravy are probably among the most unhealthy thing that people can eat. But it's also very, very delicious. And biscuits and gravy, for me, goes back to my young adulthood. I don't ever remember Mom making country gravy, sausage gravy, white gravy, whatever you want to call it, or even biscuits other than the little things you got in the roll. And what are those even called? I have never had them except when Mom made them, pre-made biscuits. And what were those? I don't even remember now. But I see them all the time at Winco when I walk by and think, ugh. Anyway, I don't remember Mom making biscuits and gravy. So my first recollection of it would have been as a young adult when I was I would have been 21, 22 years old when I was first out on my own. I lived in a house with roommates, and we would go in the morning. Sometimes we all kind of worked together, and other times we didn't. And we'd go down in the morning to a restaurant down about a mile away, on our way to, go start our day. And I believe it was called Big Owl's Drive Up, and I think they are a chain restaurant, I think, but I don't know whether this one was or not. But they had a really good biscuit and gravy, and that was the first time I'd ever had it, was at this restaurant. And we'd all come in there and get these, 2 biscuits or 4 biscuits or whatever it was. 4 halves, I guess. That'd be a lot, 4 biscuits. And oftentimes you'd get it like a side of sausage with it, and 2 eggs with it. But to me, just the biscuits and gravy alone is more than enough food. But I do remember for a long time us going down there, and those other guys that I was living with and so forth, they would just, they'd be dumping the black pepper, just shaking it on there till the plate would be almost black with black pepper. And I certainly like a lot of black pepper on my biscuits. It should have pepper in it, cooked into it, and then even add some more. But anyway, be that as it may, I have real fond memories of the biscuits and gravy down there. They were really delicious. And this was long before I ever started in the food service industry. And when I did start in the food service industry, it's just a few years later. And the first restaurant I was working in, I wasn't even a cook. I didn't know how to cook. I was a dishwasher. Well, first I was mopping floors. They wouldn't even let me wash dishes till I passed the floor mopping test as a 24-year-old or whatever, 23 or 24-year-old. And anyway, there was an old chef there, a really old chef, and they called him Old Bill. And I got a couple pictures of him, and I don't have any idea what his last name was, but he looked like he was a good 80 years old, but he was still working there, and he was a really nice guy. And on the menu was biscuits and gravy. Of course, this was a truck stop, so that was kind of a staple. Chicken fried steak and biscuits and gravy and all the rest. And he made the gravy from scratch. I saw him doing it several times back there, and at some point I asked him, man, what's your recipe on this? How do you make this? And he's all back there in my office. He talked really slow like an 80-year-old man would, and there was a recipe box back there, and I'll go back there and write it down. It's pretty simple, real easy. I've been making it for years. And anyway, the recipe, I'll share it. The recipe is pretty simple. I just figured it out for making it at home. His recipe was much bigger though. And my recipe for it is a pound of sausage, about a quarter pound of bacon sliced up, diced up, thick sliced bacon, maple flavored is my favorite. 4 tablespoons of butter, small red onion diced. Put most of that onion in there. Clove of garlic, depending on the size might be 2. 4 tablespoons of flour. 2 cups of half and half, and this was one of the things he taught me, was to use half and half and not heavy cream. And a lot of people use heavy cream, but then it just comes out so thick and rich and such a creamy flavor, and you really don't need that. The half and half is plenty, and even the milk is just using regular 2% milk or even something else would be fine. But I do the half and half. Chicken, need some chicken base in there, so I do 1 cube of my Knorr's chicken bouillon, and then black pepper to taste, and some sliced up, very thinly chopped up green onions. And that's more or less for a garnish on top, but you put it in very, very last thing. And there were 2 other things on his recipe as well, and that was ground sage or fresh sage and thyme, either ground or fresh. Fresh, of course, would be better. I don't remember what he used, but I thought it was a little overpowering on the sage and thyme, and I'm not a big fan of either one of those, so I actually started leaving it out of my recipe. It's not even in my recipe that I have on my computer now. So we're going to make that today, and as I said, this is something that I really shouldn't be eating at all, but I wanted to share the recipe because this was a big part of my life as a young adult. I loved biscuits and gravy. I don't remember making country gravy last winter, or biscuits, or both. I'd make both, but I don't remember making it last winter, and I don't know if I made it the winter before. The only time I would make this is the winter time, because you got to use the oven for baking, and I just don't use my oven during the summer because it's just too hot, and it's a good excuse to not use the oven at all. So it's been at least 2 years since I made this, so we're gonna make it today, and I'm also gonna make some biscuits, of course, to go with it. I have a really good biscuit recipe. Where I got it at, I don't know. I served this actual recipe for biscuits and gravy at the corporation for a while as a line cook. I had the option of having that as a special or whatever, or I guess it was on the menu there. And the others, what the corporate menu said was canned country gravy, and I don't know if anybody out there's had canned gravy of any kind, but it is just terrible. It's the taste of the can is just too stupid, and it's just ruined. I will not eat canned gravy, especially a cream gravy. I just will not do it. So I started making my special stuff there, and then one of the big wigs got word of it, and oh no, we can't do that. We're going to do the corporate thing, and so that ended that. But I've made it lots and lots of times for the restaurant. People loved it. There's lots of different ways to make it, and but this is simply my recipe, and I'll talk more about that as we get onto that. So the biscuits is really simple. I've narrowed mine down to 3 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of salt. It's really hard to not put salt in this because it is biscuits. So a little bit, a teaspoon is probably a little too much. 3 tablespoons of baking powder, a 1/4 cup of butter, 4 ounces of butter, and then a 1/2 cup of buttermilk. And I didn't buy buttermilk, but I have regular 2% milk, so that'll work just fine. There is the reason why this is this is an unhealthy dish is because of all the fat. We got sausage, we got bacon. We're going to put butter into the gravy, not to mention the half and half. So it is very, very fattening and very unhealthy because of all that. And the biscuits, of course, are going to have lots of butter in them. And you should actually put shortening in your biscuits if you want them to be nice and, you know, flaky and just fall apart. And I really don't care about that. So I have omitted the shortening out of the biscuit recipe. And like I said, I don't remember where I got this, but it's delicious. Depending on how much baking powder is, how much they're going to rise. And there's nothing like a nice big fluffy biscuit. So we'll make that, and this will be the only time this winter I make biscuits and gravy. And perhaps next winter I will not be making it at all, because it is just not very healthy. It's raining pretty hard outside. It's going to rain all day again today. So let's get on with this. I just did a little bit of prep. I had to peel garlic, and I don't like peeling garlic. It's never any fun, but I did it, and I got a couple 4 cloves ready to go, but I'm only going to use 1. If it's not fresh garlic, it's not really worth using, I don't think. So let's get on with making country biscuits and gravy. Okay, I am just about to start putting my biscuits together. I have measured out my flour and my other ingredients in here, got it all mixed up. I need to put the milk in, and I'm going to bake them on, actually I'm going to make them on this pan here. So I need to get some flour onto this pan, because we're going to roll our dough out here and then cut it up. And then I got another baking dish like this that I will use to bake them. This is my cutter. This is just a giant can that's been cut, both ends are cut off, so I'll make my biscuits that size. So let's get started, and once those are done, I will put them in the fridge here and let them sit, because I gotta make all my gravy. I gotta get all that stuff going. The biscuits, you can put the dough in the refrigerator, and the baking powder, and even if you have baking soda in it, it won't react as long as it's refrigerated. But if it sits out, it'll start reacting, and your product won't be so good. So let's get started on this. That didn't make anywhere near as much dough as I thought it would. I am completely out of practice as far as making biscuit dough at home. I thought that would cover the pan more, but that's okay. We're only making this one batch, so that might be enough biscuits to finish off this whole batch that I'm going to be making today as far as the gravy goes. So it may seem really funny, but I do not own a rolling pin. I've just never had a need to buy one. Of course, I've used a rolling pin at my bakery job countless times, but it's really easy just to get your dough laying down there just by hand. Take all your jewelry and everything off. At least I do. So let's start cutting this out. And that is it. We got a total of 8 biscuits, 8.5 biscuits out of that batch that I made. So if I need to make some more biscuit dough, I will. A little bit long. The biscuits are resting in the fridge. They can last there for hours and hours, even overnight, before I bake them.